New KPAM.
John Gibson, we're back. Joining me now, Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. That's AIFdemocracy.org online. Founder of Take Back Islam, takebackislam.com. Formerly a U.S. Navy lieutenant commander, author of A Battle for the Soul of Islam. So, Dr. Jasser, welcome to the show. I wanted to ask you first off, just because, I mean, it's kind of gotten buried with succeeding news, but do you agree with Donald Trump or disagree about getting out of Syria?
Well, I disagree, and I'll tell you why. I think, for the return on investment, we barely had 2,000 troops there, most of them special ops, that protected and provided intel for the Kurds and others, 30% of the area of Syria. Now the Kurds, who are probably second to Israel, our greatest ally in the Middle East, are going to have to turn to Russia, turn to Assad, and a lot of the gains we've had have been lost. And, maybe I'm splitting hairs or parsing words. I'm not even sure if that qualifies as a deployment. I think we have special forces all over the planet. We have a few hundred in Somalia and elsewhere. I sort of felt like, yes, if we're talking major deployments, for example, Afghanistan, I don't disagree with pulling. We've not achieved much at all there. But I do think on a return on investment, not to mention the border with Israel, the threats they're going to get from Iran, Hezbollah, and others. Already, as we pulled out, not only did we see the attack this week on killing 4 Americans, but Israel had to take out a couple Hezbollah missile places right within a few miles of their border.
Well, I mean, the attack is meant to hurry us along in withdrawing, but do you think that'll be the effect?
It seems like that's going to be the effect, and that President Trump has not changed. Now, there has been a walk back in that we are now, the administration, State Department, and Department of Defense are saying that we're pulling out much more slowly until we know the Kurds are safe, until we know our allies are not going to be abandoned. So that was very reassuring. I'm not sure how they're going to do that without special forces on the ground. We have no other way to get intel from that area. And certainly the Turks are not to be trusted, even though they're NATO. Erdogan is a jihadist, and there's little evidence that he hasn't in many ways fueled some of the Jabhat al-Nusra and radical al-Qaeda, ISIS-type groups, even though they claim to be on the same side as us. So I don't, I think they were emboldened. I do, we could argue over chicken or the egg. Did they do this attack because we were leaving and they were emboldened, or did they do it to sort of kick us in the rear as we're leaving? Either way, I don't think we can declare victory. I think we just sort of declaring cut and run as we've sometimes had to do in other places.
But in a way, the terror bombing that killed the 4 Americans, one of them a woman, by the way, it sort of illustrated Trump's point that we got people in a dangerous place for what exactly? Again,
so what's the strategy? How do we, certainly the old mission accomplished banner, whether it was the 2003 banner of President Bush, where we had a lot more work yet to do in Iraq, or this one where, Vice President Pence and President Trump talking about victory, we did not win. Jihadism is as strong as it's ever been. But you're right. What are we getting from that? I do think places where the jihadists have a foothold that we do not have strength to respond to them, they will grow and use those as bases in which to launch operations around the world and in the region against our allies. So we can either fight them there, as you've heard the cliche before, or fight them here. We just had an ISIS adherent arrested in Georgia. We had one here in Arizona just 2 days ago. So the ideology is continuing to spread, and jihadism is going to be a generational conflict. And all I would tell you is, yes, no more major deployments. We're not going to win this militarily. But special forces, Syria, Somalia, a few areas in Afghanistan, Iraq, et cetera, that's going to be, we can never withdraw, because those vacuums, John, will be filled by Russia, Iran, the greatest antagonist of Western freedom and our allies.
Speaking with Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, who is the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. So what do you make of the two radical, well, I think they're pretty radical anyway, Muslims who've been elected to Congress, Rashida Tlaib and Ms. Omar? Ms. Omar is on the Foreign Relations Committee. That means she's getting secret stuff, having access to secret stuff, right?
Yeah, not only that, having access and providing input as a valid BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanction supporter, which is an anti-Semitic, anti-Israel movement that wants to basically destroy the economy of Israel. And, her interview just 2 days ago on CNN, they actually, believe it or not, on her tweets that called Israel evil, that prayed that Allah defeat them, and all this other offensive, un-American commentary about our ally, and she was unapologetic about it. And yet the next day, Pelosi names her on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, which decides and negotiates the amount of appropriations to foreign countries, including Israel. So the only good about these two congresswomen is that it'll no longer be underground, the Islamist impact on the Democratic Party. It'll no longer be underground that the Democratic Party has swung not only anti-Israel but anti-Semitic. And I think it'll be open to the public. And when you see people like Maxine Waters in videos hugging Louis Farrakhan and the Women's March allying itself with radical Islamists and with the Nation of Islam and others, now it'll become obvious what their ideology is. And when people say, where are the voices of moderate Islam, when the left is busy electing to Congress Islamists that really don't look at the worldview the way America does, but look at the worldview in a more Islamic Sharia, Islamic law type mentality, you wonder not only how they get elected, but how are they getting security clearances, and where's the rest of the Muslim community? We're being suffocated by this identity politic movement.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. That's aifdemocracy.org. And he is the founder of Take Back Islam, takebackislam.com, formerly in the U.S. Navy as lieutenant commander and author of A Battle for the Soul of Islam. Dr. Jasser, it's always great to talk to you. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks for having me, John. Appreciate it.